Hi guys, my name is Lela Sophia. I am an artist and fine jewelry designer. If you like contemporary fine jewelry, if you like luxury handbags, all things interiors, and I have some fun videos for you. Today, highly anticipated, I'm going to give you my thoughts on watches, perhaps my favorite watches. Of course it's me, so I'm gonna give you some vintage styles. I'm not a watch girl, so keep that in mind. I am a jewelry designer, so obviously there's gonna be more so bracelet-y watches, more gold heavy, metal heavy watches. So if you're a big time kind of modern day watch fanatic, different vibes, but if you're kind of vintage-y, want something to go perfectly with your jewelry collection, I'm gonna give you my favorites. If you guys are new here, thank you so much for joining. I can't wait to see you in all of my future videos, so make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Lela Sophia Jewelry. So let's get into the obvious. The very obvious, most beautiful brand in my opinion is Cartier. I am a Cartier fan myself. I have two of the Juste un Clos pieces. Cartier watches, especially for women, especially they're more kind of dainty, smaller faced watches. The Panther, moment of silence, because like, that would be one that one day, maybe, you know, a bigger occasion, maybe a wedding, maybe having a baby type of scenario, I may have to put that on a little list or two, but especially the vintage styles with diamonds kind of delicately encrusting the face of the watch. These are just so gorgeous. Of course, the Cartier tank. I think everybody has their own kind of opinions on it, especially in the watch world. The tank I think is personally so gorgeous. I kind of debate, I might like the Panther a little bit more, but the tank is so beautiful, especially when you're talking about kind of unisex or very universal. So the tank is absolutely an option. The tank Francais, this is so beautiful. It's like a tiny bit more, it's not square quite, but a little bit shorter in length. It's so beautiful. I don't feel qualified to talk about all the specifications, but if you're looking for something a little bit different, or if you have a collection already of Cartier, this seems absolutely beautiful. Also, to add in, there are a vintage style of Cartier tanks that are, I believe, vermeil, so they're not solid gold. So you're not getting that aspect of it, but that lends beautifully to the prices. This is the must-de tank. So these were a collection of vintage watches. There were actually several collections over the years. They have some fun, cool colored faces, some fun bands. A place like Vestiaire is an amazing place to search for these. Even I found some on Etsy. The price has gone up since I first discovered them, probably like 3-ish years ago, because there's just a huge, I think people are now realizing the cost of gold watches or even gold tone watches are more worth it than they were being sold for. So if you have, you know, anywhere from $1,500 to maybe $3,000 budget and don't want to go above that, definitely search for a must-de tank. Again, such an incredible, timeless house. BVLGAR timepieces are so gorgeous. Of course, we have to talk about the kind of snake wrapped around one. Like, these would not look good on me. I'm not sure if they're plus size friendly, if they're size friendly, but on a kind of daintier, I'll use that word subjectively, but on a daintier, kind of thinner wrist, I've seen these in person and my goodness, they're gorgeous. They're a statement, and yet it's a beautiful way that BVLGAR works with making pieces that are true statements while having them be classic, which is very hard to do. BVLGAR has beautiful options. And again, for a more kind of, again, we're gonna use big air quotes here, not affordable, but on the lower end, Chanel timepieces I think are beautiful. That might surprise somebody. I'm not the biggest modern day Chanel person. If I could find a vintage one, that would be beautiful, but I don't know. The Chanel timepieces I think are gorgeous. Again, we're seeing, obviously I'm very biased. I love the vintage look. I love the black and gold ones. They're really stunning, and I would check on the pre-loved market if you're interested. And for a designer that I wonder if people are curious as to why I haven't talked about her, but she just has such a big platform that it's not as much my current everyday what I'm looking towards, but for years and years, Jackie Aish was my favorite jewelry designer. I have owned a lot of her pieces. For those of you guys who know me personally, I wore her hand chains. I had a body chain, I had a lapis necklace, I had some rings, some earrings. I had a lot of pieces from her. She's kind of like gone off into her own world. They're a huge powerhouse design brand who also occasionally will do very custom, very high-end timepieces. They're pretty cool. Of course, there's the big chunky Rolexes that she'll obviously swap the face out of, do her own face. The weed symbol is very much so her thing. I've seen some with that. If that's your thing, go forth and prosper. She's a really cool brand just in general. Go check her out. And of course I'm gonna talk about Rolex. You know what I'm gonna say. I personally would only ever buy vintage Rolexes. I've talked about before, but I, for 2 years, owned a men's fine jewelry store, and we worked with an incredible watch dealer, watch vendor, and I had some vintage Rolexes that I sold that, whew, it almost turned me into a watch person. They were so beautiful. I sold one to a family member, and I'm lucky enough to now be able to see it every time I see her. Vintage Rolexes, I think, are far superior. Again, unfortunately, with the rise of gold and yada, 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 we'll get that into it in a different video, but gold Rolexes were priced extremely well. Like 5 years ago, especially before the pandemic when gold started rising, it's a lot of gold. If you have that budget, a vintage gold Rolex is an amazing investment. One of my favorite designers who I've ever worked with, Katie from Veda Jewelry, Veda World, she does amazing sunglasses. I'll talk about her more in another video. She has the coolest vintage Rolex I've ever seen with like a carnelian face, and I think she was probably like, my eyes are up here the first time I saw it, because I was like, this is gorgeous. She works with an amazing vintage dealer as well. She is one herself, but Arrow and Anchor Antiques. Oh my gosh, I have to check and see if she still has this, but for a long time, I'm sure she still does, has a malachite face vintage Rolex. Bury me in that watch. Also, lapis-faced black mother of pearl. If any of those were to come my way, you know, I might have to become a watch person for that. And of course, again, there are a lot of brands that I won't be talking about just because I think they're amazing and they're gorgeous. I feel unqualified to talk about them, and quite frankly, they're just not my style. But from afar, I can appreciate Audemars Piguet Royal Oaks. I think the very smallest one, when watches get to be too chunky, I'm like, why? But that's a whole different thing. I do really like the Royal Oaks. I even like them, quite frankly, in the stainless steel. I'm not a rose gold girl, but for some reason the AP Royal Oaks and rose gold, I like. I don't know why. But the yellow gold smallest ones, that's a really cool vibe. Now, because I'm not an expert on this topic and I'm just saying all these things subjectively, I'm going to give you some people who are experts. Malika Crawford I know her personally and I love her so much, love her work. I've been a fan of hers for years and we've worked together with my own line. She is now like deep in the watch world. She is an amazing source. Follow her on Instagram. She has a podcast. She's popped up on some interviews here and there. The work that she's doing now, I'm just like, she's incredible. Vintage, especially if you're looking for a vintage watch and kind of want some inspiration, follow Malika. Someone who you most likely, I don't know, hopefully you guys are, some of you guys might be connected that way, but Tyler, the Creator's Watch collection, guys, best watch collection I've ever seen in my life. Obviously, vintage Cartier is his thing. If I was him, I would have done the same thing and invested in these just like gorgeous forever pieces. He did it right. None of these huge, chunky, iced out, yada, yada, yada. The bracelets that he's chosen, I see some exotics in there. Obviously a Cartier crash. His collection is the craziest, coolest collection I've ever seen. And for 2 resources slash dealers, Analog Shift specializes in vintage timepieces, and they are actually now the in-house timepiece dealer for vintage watches of Watches of Switzerland. They're beyond amazing. If there's some crazy obscure watch that you're trying to look for, I would absolutely contact Analog Shift. And Material Good. Material Good is such a cool concept. If you are in New York and want just like a gorgeous shopping experience, definitely check out Material Good. Otherwise, follow them on Instagram and check out their website. They're the coolest. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. I know there are probably so many watch nerds watching, rolling their eyes at my basic choices, but again, I'm a jewelry designer, I'm a jewelry lover, that's my thing. So here are watches for jewelry lovers that will just fit seamlessly into your collection. I can't wait to see you in all of my future videos, so make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Lela Sophia Jewelry. Bye guys.